Hey guys, it's the Brickstar here, and I am back for another set review. And today we are going to be talking about the UCS Jango Fett Slave One, or technically Jango Fett Starship now, because I guess Disney wants to move away from the whole slave thing, which, I can understand. However, I'm going to be referring to the set as the Slave One, just because that's what I'm used to calling it. So, yeah. As of recording this video, this is the latest UCS set, and, well, as you probably know, this thing is based off of Jango Fett Slave 1, which is great because our last Jango Fett Slave 1 was over 20 years ago. So it is great to finally get a new one, especially in UCS form. Anyway, for the information on the set, it released in May of 2025 for a retail price of $300, and this has set number 75409, 2,970 pieces, 2 minifigures, and an age rating of 18+. So the two figures included are a Jango Fett and a young Boba Fett. And one of these figures is really good, and the other one, well, isn't. So let's talk about the good figure first. Yep, we finally got a new, updated version of Jango Fett, which is great because the previous one came out 8 years ago. The new one has extremely detailed printing on the torso and legs, and even arm printing, which is a first for Jango Fett. He has a slightly updated helmet, and even a new rangefinder piece. The figure includes a nice jetpack, which is neat. However, the jetpack probably should have been done in silver instead of gunmetal gray. And this is the back print. Underneath the helmet, there is of course a nice face print, which is extremely similar to the newest Boba Fett, just with some changes to the scars and other minor things. However, the Jango Fett actually has a second face, with a little bit of a more angry expression. And the set actually includes a hairpiece for Jango, which is pretty cool. However, I don't think this was the best option. Personally, I think that this hairpiece just looks a lot better. Now, for the most controversial thing about the set, the young Boba. And usually, I don't like to be too negative in my videos. However, this is just a bad figure. For 3 main reasons. Number 1, his whole outfit is just the wrong color. It should just be a sand blue instead of this bright blue, and his arms should clearly be dark blue. But the main complaint with the figure is the hairpiece. And the reason they use this hairpiece is because they recently used it in the Dark Millennium Falcon, so it was just a lazy reuse. So for his hair, they should have just used the Kylo Ren hairpiece in black, which is what they used for the previous 2 young Boba Fett figures. Or what I think would be the better option would be the Han Solo hairpiece in black. And because this is a UCS set, I feel like his legs should have been dual molded, especially because we know LEGO can dual mold the shorter legs. Here are some examples. And one positive with the figure is the fact that he finally has the more accurate skin tone, which I do like. And the printing on his torso isn't bad. Here is his back print, and second face. Now, onto the main builds. But first up, let's talk about the stand. There really isn't too much going on with the stand. It is just a Technic structure holding up the ship, with a nice display plaque. The plaque just has the name of the ship, some information about it, and a nice 3D render. And if you want, you could slightly adjust the plaque a little bit, but I like to have it at a slight angle. And personally, I wish there were spots on both sides to put the figures on the stand if you didn't want them in the ship. And the way the stand holds up the ship is pretty simple. There are just those 2 hooks, which just slot into the back of the ship. They slot in right there on those 2 parts. And this is the back of the ship. Dotted around the sides, there are those transparent pieces, which I assume are supposed to represent lights. Of course, there are the engines with some nice yellow thrust, and even the radar dish, which looks pretty cool. And right here, you can actually open the spot up, so that if any pieces fall in the ship, you can easily retrieve them, which can prove pretty useful. And right here, there are those 2 panels, which, if you move, reveals the seismic charge, which easily has some of the best sound design in all of Star Wars. In case if you want to hear it again. Ah, beautiful. And for a closer look, you can actually take it out. However, this thing does use a lot of stickers, which isn't exactly ideal. And it can be a bit of a pain to put it back in there. Also, with those 2 panels, I feel like there should have been some sort of door mechanism to actually open and close them, instead of just having to take them off. And there definitely should have been some sort of feature to launch the seismic charge out of the back. I think that would have been really cool. Otherwise, there really isn't too much going on the backside of the ship. You can just see some of the techniques they use to achieve the curvature. I want to say, they did a very good job achieving the curvature of the actual ship. Because with the previous one, right there, it would kind of just end off. So, this one looks a lot better in that aspect. However, this set does have a lot of stickers. The most egregious one would have to be that one right there. Because, as you can see, the green color is a little bit off, and I would recommend that you try to push that sticker as close to the edge as possible, so there isn't a weird green gap. Same with that yellow sticker right there. The wings look very good, with a lot of detailing, and there's a lot going on right there. And luckily, both wings do move in unison, which is great. There is also this whole rounded area, which looks pretty good. There are a couple yellow details around. At the top of the ship, there is this nice sand green stripe, which looks decent, and there's also a yellow piece right there. There's also what I like to call the nose of the ship, which of course looks pretty good. Right here, there's a little thing which you can move, and I assume this is supposed to be some sort of little blaster, and there's some Arbesh writing, which translates to this. As you make your way down, there are some nice pipes right there, and of course the two blasters, which do luckily move in unison, just like the wings. And if you want, you could move the top one up, but I'm not sure why you would do that. There's also some nice yellow detailing right there. The same goes for the other side. And there's of course the green stripe going down in the middle. And there's a sticker right there, and another one right there. But I mean, besides those stickers, this whole thing looks pretty good. And one complaint I have is that the whole nose area kind of blocks off the display plaque, which is a little annoying. And one thing that kind of sucks is that there isn't any sort of door right here to open up and reveal some hidden weapons, unlike the previous UCS Boba Fett Slave one. And luckily, throughout the set, there really aren't that many gaps besides that one right there, which is pretty annoying. Now for the cockpit area. It has this pretty big windscreen piece, which looks decent, except those two stickers right there. Those were not fun to put on, plus as you can see, I didn't exactly align them the best. Also, for some reason, I have seen a lot of people placing these stickers like one stud higher than they're supposed to go, and I'm not sure why. There might have been some sort of mistake in the earlier production of the manuals, but still, just something interesting I noticed. And to access inside, it's pretty simple. You just take off this whole front thing. It can be a little annoying though. And this is it. There are 2 small seats on the bottom, and 3 more right here with all of the controls. And right here, there's some Arbesh writing, which translates to this. And I believe it is supposed to be a reference to the moon prison where the ship came from, which is a pretty cool Easter egg. And to allow easier access to put figures in, you can actually take out this whole section, which is pretty cool. However, this means that the seats no longer rotate with the wings like the previous UCS Slave 1. However, I think it's worth it because that means they were able to pack in a lot more detail. And yep, there are 3 seats right here, and some control panels. There's a simple one in the middle, another one which I believe is supposed to be a map of the asteroid belts, and a little model of the ship. There's also the targeting sensor right there, which is pretty cool. You can of course put Jango and Boba into their seats. However, you do have to remove Jango's jetpack. And you can easily put them back and close up the windshield. And they do look pretty cool. A pretty cool inclusion is that right there, you can actually take out this back wall to reveal a little storage spot. And this is where you can put Jango's blasters and jetpack for when he's piloting the ship. However, there is not a spot to put his helmet, which, kind of sucks. And you can, of course, put it back just like that. And this is what it looks like with the other seats filled. However, it is a little annoying to put a normal-sized figure in one of the back seats with those little control panels. And the set also looks great in its landed position. This honestly wouldn't be a bad way to display it. And if you do end up displaying it like this, you could also display your figures in action. A pretty simple one would be to have Jango fighting Obi-Wan. And one pretty cool thing about the set would have to be the ramp and the door, because the way the door opens is pretty cool. You just push down the ramp, just like that. And with a ramp down, it also allows more headroom for figures to walk in, which is very neat. And Jango barely fits, but his rangefinder kind of gets in the way. And if you accidentally drop a figure down there, you can still retrieve them with a door in the back, which is very cool. And to close the door, it's pretty simple. You just push the door. So, would I recommend that you get this set? If you can afford it, yes, I definitely would. This is a great UCS set. The build looks excellent, the price I don't think is terrible, and it is just a massive upgrade from the previous UCS Slave 1. I just feel like a lot of them easily could have been prints. In fact, the only printed piece in the set is actually just the display plaque. All of the other little detailed bits are all stickers, which really sucks. So, I think I'm going to give this set about a 9.5 out of 10. It's almost a 10 out of 10, but that young Boba and those stickers really hurt it. Anyway, see ya.